Welcome to the With Winning in Mind podcast. I'm your host, Heather Sumlin, and today I am joined by our producer, Lucas Pinckard, and we're so excited to have you join us. Troy's out of town, and I said, well, we're not going to not do it.
Yeah, we can't not do the show.
Yeah, we must do the show.
Absolutely. We've got Patreon people. We've got our YouTube subscribers. We need to make sure we put some good content out there for everybody to see.
That's right. So you're going to tell me what we're doing.
Yeah. Well, one of the things we've been talking about a lot off air is we're in seasons of change, right? You've got a daughter who just went to college. Your son is now out of college and is in the workforce. And so he's experiencing change. You're experiencing change as a mom. Our kiddo, mine and Kirsten, just turned 1 year old. And then we just found out we've got another one on the way. So our life is in this constant state of flux. And there's a lot of applications for mental management when it comes to change, whether it's change in your personal life, whether it's change in your business, if you get a new boss, or and some of the things that's happening in pageantry right now, where the people at the top are kind of changing the grading rubric and those kind of things, or like in my sports, when I've been on the show before, we've talked about how I have a background in bodybuilding and strongman competitions. Well, if it rained in a strongman competition and they moved it inside, our events may change. So the things that I've been training for 4, 5, 6 months, because the competition has to happen, especially if it's a local or regional qualifier, because that's how we get into the national level and the world level competitions. They may have something that they didn't plan on doing, but we've got the implements for it. Well, now all of a sudden we can't be dragging a 400-pound anchor across concrete inside this building. We don't have time for something else to happen. Now we're lifting Atlas stones instead of doing this. So it's a completely different event. It's something that none of us have trained for, and it may really shake up whether or not I think I finish in the top 1, 2, or 3, or in the bottom 1, 2, or 3, depending on how the other events go. So change is something that's constantly happening, and I think talking about how we manage change and where we see our opportunities and where we kind of pick up those areas of our self-image, I think are big things just in life. So I sort of want to pick your brain about some of that stuff, because that seems like this is kind of like the wheelhouse for Heather. Because I think with a lot of your I think clients that you coach, you deal with change on a different level, right? So with rifle competitions or with golf and a lot of the clients that Troy has, they may have some environmental things, like the wind might pick up, they may have bad weather or something like that, but they just stop and they reschedule. With one of his baseball clients, if the weather's bad, they just pick it up on another day when the weather's nice. You don't get that opportunity with your pageantry clients or with your dog training clients and those kind of things. If there's something outside, some type of outside force, they've got to fix it. So let's start with when the rubric changes, right? So if the grading criteria or the judging criteria changes, which we might see in some of the pageants, is pageant sports? How do we say that? Pageant competitions?
Pageantry. Yeah, pageant competition probably is more. That
may change in pageantry. Let's say, for instance, if something is going from, a competition that is not very, looks or beauty based or something like that, and now all of a sudden they're adding in a physical element, that may be a big, self-image just bomb for some of your clients. The same as it would for a person who's in business, that a new boss comes in and they're like, hey, loved all the stuff that you used to be doing, but now we're not taking any of those statistics. Now these are the new metrics, and you may be underperforming in all of those areas. How do you, as a mental coach, how do you start to coach somebody through that type of scenario?
Well, I have a couple of thoughts on this.
Yeah, so, the more thoughts, the merrier.
More thoughts, the merrier.
Right.
Okay. The first thing that comes to mind to me is if it's outside of your comfort zone. So whatever the change is. So let's go with, Miss America organization, they ditched the bikini competition, and then they now have brought back fitness. And so you had quite a few girls who maybe they participated because there wasn't a fitness element.
Right.
Maybe they liked that, and then they brought it back. And maybe they brought it back after they won their local. This was last year.
Okay.
After they won their local competition, then all of a sudden, the leadership changes. They change basically the rubric. They change the phases of competition a little bit, and then now in order to participate, you're going to be participating in this fitness element. And
so they would change that like even after they won the local competition.
They did last year, yeah.
Wow.
They
okay.
did. Some
so
of
that's
the
a
girls.
huge wrinkle.
It can be. And I think you have to decide, number one, why are you doing this?
Okay.
And number two, if the fitness element isn't outside of it might be outside of your comfort zone, but if it's not outside of your fundamental values, like
right.
They weren't in swimsuits, they were in fitness wear,
Right.
things that girls wear all the time.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily a stretch to say you could probably participate in this phase of competition.
Yeah.
And there was, in most cases, plenty of time
Okay.
to then find a trainer, work on your nutrition and exercise. There was time to work on those things.
Right.
It may not have been what you really wanted necessarily, but is it actually good for you? Is it something that maybe you should be focusing on? So could you shift perspective from, gosh, I really was hoping I wouldn't have to do this, to, wait, this is going to better me as a human?
Yeah.
Shift perspective. So you kind of have to, or you drop out. I mean, I guess there's that option, which I don't know of anybody who did.
Right.
And maybe there was across country, but I don't know of anybody who did. I think most of the girls took it on as a challenge, said, okay, I'm going to work on me.
Right.
I'm going to do my best to like this, right? I think attitude matters. So whatever we focus on is kind of what's going to happen, right? So if you think about the principle of reinforcement, the more you think about, talk about, and write about something happening, you improve the probability of that thing happening. If I'm thinking about, talking about, and writing about the fact that I don't like fitness competition, I'm not going to want to work out. I'm not going to want to eat right. I'm not going to want to put on that outfit and strut my stuff on the stage. I'm not going to want to do it. So we have to shift how we communicate with ourselves, how we communicate with others, what we actually write in our journals. Like, we have to change that.
It seems like it's kind of like that old thing, like when you teach a kid to ride a bike and, they're coming down the street and they don't want to hit the mailbox, but then they focus on the mailbox.
Oh, yeah, hitting the mailbox.
And then they just run, they're so worried about not hitting the mailbox that they just crash and burn, and they look back at mom and dad and they're like, oh my gosh, what happened? You're like, your focus was totally on the mailbox and not what was in front of you.
Yeah, look where you're going.
Yeah, and some of the reinforcement principle kind of has that same aspect to it, that if we're constantly thinking about the negative outcomes, then that's obviously what's going to happen. And then looking at this as an opportunity, right? Like, learning a new skill is a really great thing to become a better and more well-rounded person. And so whether that skill is fitness, whether that skill is a new technique that you have to use, or whether that skill is learning to just handle a little bit of adversity with some of those changes. So, the fitness element to me seems like something that for some of the ladies in pageantry is a shift in not just maybe what motivated them to do the pageant to begin with, but also it creates this shift in their personal self-image, because what they're doing in moving into fitness is going to be something that actually changes their body one way or another.
Yeah, in their mind, if you think about it.
Right, because they're going to be exercising more, which releases certain hormone endorphins and those kind of things that can provide a more positive and optimistic outlook on things that they may have
do it healthily.
Right.
Yes.
And so let's say for the fitness competition in particular, if a client of yours is now in the fitness competition, they've been going for 6 or 8 weeks, and they're starting to see this bodily change that's beginning to happen to them. How does that affect their self-image as far as like that person in the mirror? Because now you may have a person who, or a client who is like really excited, or maybe let's work both scenarios. One that you get really excited because they feel like they're getting into better shape and they're, sort of creating the physique that they always wanted. Well, let's go the other route. Now you've got someone who now starts to think that, oh my gosh, I'm becoming too muscular. And like now I have a less desirable physique in my mind, right, than what I may have had otherwise.
I think it's important. To have mentors when you're pursuing anything. You need to have coaches, mentors, people who are directing you and helping you, and find the fitness coach or the nutritionist or somebody who is going to be able to help you build the physique that you're looking for you. I think one thing that I don't like the idea of I have to fit in this mold. So it's a little different than bodybuilding, right? Where they're looking for specific things.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a very, very detailed and very specific. Whereas in pageantry, it's more of a feeling. Like, do I like what I see? Does she seem confident? Does she seem secure?
Right.
Is she happy to be there? Does it look like she takes care of her body? It's a way less structured and rigid as far as the scoring system.
Okay.
So therefore, a girl doesn't maybe have to have this muscular figure in order to do well. She needs to be fit.
Right.
So find the coach that's going to help you get where you want to go in a healthy manner. And I think if you can do that, you can feel confident in what you're bringing to the table. And then everybody is different. And so you should embrace your body and be grateful for the body that you were created, that was created for you.
Right.
And just make it the best that you can in the time that you have.
Yeah.
And be happy about the progress. I think another thing that's important with change is actually recording your progress and paying attention to how am I growing? How am I becoming closer to whatever I need to be in order to get this goal?
Right.
And so when you mentioned, you know, maybe your boss changes or maybe the requirements change or a teacher changes.
Right.
Which is going to be interesting because Austin started teaching today.
Oh, okay. Right.
Yeah.
On.
So it's his first, it's not the kid's first day. It's his
yeah,
first
it's
day.
his first day. Yeah.
And he's teaching high school when he's always taught middle school.
Oh, wow.
And he's teaching in a completely different area. So let's see how this goes.
Yeah. A lot of shifts.
Yeah. I think it'll be fun. Now, if he goes into it with the attitude of I'm going to have a good year. I'm excited to meet all of my students. I'm excited. I'm excited, not I'm nervous. You know, there's a difference in just your perception. You know, if I'm excited, everything's a little bit more positive. If I'm focusing on nerves, then I'm fearful. So it makes sense to whenever there's a change that you look forward to the things that you can look forward to and focus on those things first.
Yeah. I think that's a really interesting way to look at it, is like the semantics of the spin that we put on it in our own lives. It's the difference. I think a lot of people always relate it to the glass half full, glass half empty kind of person, but there is...
It just needs more fluid in it.
Yeah.
I mean...
Right. And but there is kind of that third way of just like, hey, you know what? I'm happy I've got something at all. Right. I think for each individual, and I know as a mental coach that's something that you work with your clients to figure out, is like, okay, where are these things where we can chart and look at progress? You know, we've mentioned job transition or transitions in management, and a lot of those metrics are kept for us, right? That if a new boss comes in and tells us, hey, you know, we're no longer looking at category A, we're looking at category B, they're likely going to give, you know, the weekly or the monthly, the quarterly reports that kind of track our progress for us in those areas. The performance analysis journal that was created by Mental Management Systems is a wonderful tool. Several of the clients that we've had on this show have talked about how that's their favorite thing is the performance analysis journal. How do you, in new areas, right? So like this is a new thing that we're training. We've never looked at it before. How do you work with the people that you coach to create positive metrics for them as they're looking? All right, so let's say I'm going to do fitness, or you know, I've got a brand new maybe it's a new talent that I'm going to try, right? And I'm starting from scratch. I'm trying to build this up. I know here's kind of my deadline. How do you work with your clients to create positive metrics that they can look at in, let's say, their performance analysis journal to chart progress?
Well, I think the performance analysis is broken up pretty good to be able to track that. So you have your objective, you keep your own personal goal that you're working on. Right. You track your technical skill and your mental skill. You write down what you did that day. You write down what went well. So I think there's just following the actual guidelines wholeheartedly will be helpful. I think one thing that I do if someone's doing something brand new and they're not going to see a lot of success up front,
right,
is instead of on the what went well section, we really want to have that be where they're really promoting the positives and focusing on those small successes and those wins. And in the beginning, there might not be very many, right? Well, you can write what you should have done or what you want to do next time or the correction as if you already did it.
Okay.
So like,
walk me through that.
You could start with, for example, let's say, I don't know, give me an example. Give me a scenario.
A scenario of something new that we're trying.
New that we could try.
Yeah. So one of the things I've recently started to do now that I'm kind of over some health issues is to get back in the gym. And so to get over some certain things, I'm having to change the way that I warm up, and I'm having to warm up with bands, and I absolutely hate it because I hate using bands. I've only used free weights and like implements that that are specific for my sport. But I'm having to use bands for the next like 7 to 8 weeks, but the bands are the same. They're not changing in difficulty. Yeah. I feel like an idiot whenever I'm in the middle of the gym and I'm the only one using bands and everybody around me is using free weights. So like this is an actual thing, right? So how can I put a positive spin on that and track progress?
So did you successfully complete your workout with the bands?
Yes. Okay. Begrudgingly, but yes.
Okay, well, okay, that's fine.
Right.
So you could start with today. I successfully completed my entire workout using the bands. I reminded myself that the bands are strengthening the muscles necessary for me to be able to do the workouts I really want to do.
Okay.
I am grateful for the opportunity to be able to work out in this way so that I can become stronger, more fit, and more ready to be able to do the things I really am excited about. Okay, so you see where I'm going. So like spin it to
like now
something
I'm ready
a little
to go
bit.
And work out with the bands again.
Yes, because I recognize you have to find what is the value in what you're doing.
Sure.
And make sure to recognize what that value is.
Yeah.
And then maybe, since obviously we need to work on attitude about the band.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So maybe you could put next time I work out, I'm going to have an amazingly positive attitude because I recognize the value.
Okay.
I'm going to, I love working out in general, and it doesn't matter what apparatus I'm using or what, what I'm using in order to work out. I'm excited about the fact that I'm able to stand, to move, to do the things that so many can't.
Gotcha.
So it's basically reminding yourself of what is the value in what you're doing, that you recognize that, you remind yourself of it, but then you go ahead and challenge yourself. You could also put it in the I learned section.
Right.
I learned that I need to. So you're going to have an I need to, right? I learned that I need to really embrace the positive aspects of this workout strategy.
Right.
And those are, and then you write out
what those are.
those positive aspects.
Yeah.
Because then you're like, oh, okay. All right. Well, the bands are cool because you're not going to hurt yourself. Right. Which I'm assuming that's why you're.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing so now I've moved into the seniors class because I'm above 35. So I'm with
seniors is above 35.
Above 35, yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Well, if you think about most like really physical sports like football, you're looking at hockey. You may throw even a lot of the Olympic sports, swimming and things like that in there. Is that athletes are retiring by like 32, 33, 34, 35, right? And a lot of them have already had 10 or 12 years in their profession. They've done 2 or 3 different Olympics, and then that's kind of it. So we're at 35. I'm in the seniors and in the masters classes for a lot of the competitions that I'm going to be entering into now, which is another shift for me, is entering into that. But I really loved the when you're talking about making statements about the future as if they've already happened. That one of next time I have a good attitude whenever I do this. I think that's an important thing because it'll be something that I'm naturally doing because I've told myself already that that's what I'm going to do. I've already made the decision for how I'm going to approach it next time. And I think that aspect of it is going to be something that's really important for me because that little imprint that I made, this Tuesday that will carry over to next Tuesday when I'm looking back at that performance analysis as I'm prepping for this next workout. I look at that journal and say, hey, I have already determined I'm going to have a good attitude going into this, and I'll read it. And even if like mentally I'm not there yet, just having read that as I prep for the next workout, I think is going to be a little bit of a shot in the arm. And the more and more that gets imprinted, by the time that imprint's heavy on there. Now I'm actually ready to move to the things that I wanted to do and have an even more positive attitude because now I'm getting that reward that I was looking for. That's a very, very cool way to approach change and performance. When we look at things that are a little more subjective in sports, right? So if I'm able to, if the goal is to lift 100 pounds and I can lift 100 pounds,
Right.
then I did it. I hit the goal. That's an easy metric.
Right.
If the goal is to impress a judge, how do I know whether or not I'm going to be able to impress the judge with the work that I'm doing? And what are some sort of, for lack of a better way to put it, like created metrics that we can do? Are they like based off of feeling? Do I feel better this time? But so much of that is subjective. Like, how do you coach that part of the mental game?
Well, it's hard because you don't really know 100% what those judges want.
Right.
Because even if they're told what they're looking for, they're human and they can choose to put whatever number down they want.
Yeah, or they may be having a bad day.
And they may just really not like your hair color or hairstyle. Yeah. I mean, there's just so many different things that could come into play. But to me, you tend to perform better, you tend to score better in any of these subjective graded elements, no matter what the competition is, if you feel better about you.
Yeah.
So if you value you love you appreciate you, and you're confident in who you are and the prep that you've done, you're going to show better, no matter what you're doing. So I think the number one thing is we've got to work self-image, because self-image matters so much. Because if you're confident that you've done enough and you walk into the room like you would be a fool not to choose me, you have a different level of comfort walking into that room. If you're walking into the room thinking, well, I hope you like me.
Oh, yeah.
I really hope they like me. Mm-hmm. Well, then you're going to be a little less interesting.
Right.
Because you're not going to command the room.
Yeah.
So you have to look at what's the job description. What am I applying for? In pageantry, it's not, in most cases, it's not you win and then you're done.
Right.
So most competitions, you win it, you get your medal and then you're done. There's no requirement afterwards. You go and compete again. In pageant, if you win a local, state, or national title,
you're an ambassador.
It comes with responsibility. So it is not just a competition where you're graded on skill. It's also a competition where it's kind of like a job interview at the same time. There's some responsibility that comes with this opportunity. So you're not just won and you're not just done at the end of the competition.
Right.
Then it all starts. So you've got to make sure that you're ready for that. So you can look at the job description. What is it that they're looking for? What do they say that they're looking for? Mm-hmm. And do I match that? And then what part of myself can I work on in order to better match that description?
Yeah.
So then, and those things are going to help you no matter what you do in life. That's what I love about pageantry. All of the phases of competition, no matter what phase it is, it's going to help you with something else outside of this. Because the most important title you're ever going to have is not going to be a pageant title.
That's true.
And so that's not the end all be all of everything.
Yeah.
That is something that motivates you to work on yourself, to become a better human so that you can go and do the things you really want to.
Huh. I love that idea. I also think that the mentality of people that compete in pageants, that last bit that you were talking about there, that they compete in order that they can become, ambassadors for their state or their region or, for the country, is crazy. Because I say crazy, it's crazy to think about because they're competing to have responsibilities. Mm-hmm. We don't do that in any competition that I've ever been in. We compete for a trophy or a ring or a title, and then we get to wear that title. And a lot of people, there's a really famous guy within strongman competitions named Eddie Hall. Mm-hmm. And Eddie's whole goal was to win one World's Strongest Man title. Mm-hmm. And in 2017, he did it. And then after he won it, he retired. Yeah. He could have won probably, because the people that he beat out in that competition were the ones who were winning consistently over the next several years. Right. And then like a smattering of guys that like he helped train and that he had just blown away in competition. Well, they all of a sudden start winning. So he could have had a legitimate 4 or 5 year run where he's at the top of his game. But he got the title. He's done. Now he does some commentary stuff and he makes funny videos on Instagram. Like that's his whole bag now. That's all he wants to do. Yeah. And in pageantry, you can't do that. You compete so that you would, in that case, you would represent this organization globally.
But you only get one time.
Right.
So that's the difference too.
So that's also really, really wild to me is that you do only get
girls,
one shot.
Girls who are prepping for Miss USA. Miss USA they announced the date. It's going to be September 29th in Reno, I believe.
Okay.
And so those girls that are prepping for that, they've all won their state. They don't get to go back and win their state again.
Yeah.
So in all these other competitions, you can be the state champion multiple times. But in pageantry, you can only represent and be that state champion, if you will, once in that system.
Yeah.
So you don't get to do it again. It's the good news is everybody that's competing is at the same level. None of them have been there before.
Right.
Everybody is the best of their state. So it's kind of a really cool experience because everyone is experiencing it for the first time. Everyone's kind of in the same boat, if you will. That's kind of cool.
Yeah. Kinda.
It's cool.
It is cool that everybody's competing for the first time.
There's a lot of pressure because it's your only time.
Yeah, well,
to do it.
I think we would be remiss whenever we talk about change. I know you and Troy have talked about this before, as to what to do when it's time to step away from your your sport or your competition or whatever. Okay, so I've done my 1 year in pageantry. I didn't make the podium, but now my run is over, and so my next big change is
what's next?
Yeah, what's next? So
that's one reason why it can't be all about being a title holder.
Okay.
So when you go into your year or into your reign or year of service, however you want to look at it, you've got to be thinking, what do I want to do next? So that you're looking for ways to make the most out of the year that you have while preparing for what's after it, setting that goal ahead of time, kind of like in the goal setting system that Lanny put together in With Winning in Mind, and that we have on our online course. There's a goal getting online course if y'all are interested. But the last step really is never achieve a goal without first setting another goal to replace it.
Yeah.
And in pageantry, that doesn't mean you have to set it before you win, because if you win, you have that year,
right.
then that becomes your goal, was to be a really great Miss whatever. But before you give up that title, you have better had planned on something next to replace what you're doing now.
Yeah.
So that you can look forward to that. You can be excited about it. You can start planting seeds. And then that way it doesn't seem like a letdown.
Yeah.
When you're handing that crown over to that next person, you need to have something to look forward to.
Yeah. So, what do you look forward to as we continue on with Winning in Mind, the Winning in Mind podcast, as you are moving into now a new season of pageantry? What are the things that you're looking forward to prepping for January, and then also with the show?
What am I looking forward to?
Yeah.
I'm an empty nester for the first time in my life.
That's kind of cool.
For the first time in 27 years, I don't have a kid at home.
Yeah.
But
you got new puppies?
I do. Oh, my goodness. Yes. And Bo is now as big as Piper. So Piper's 44 pounds and Bo is just as big as she is.
Oh,
and he
wow.
is like 4 months old. So
he's going to be a big puppy dog.
A big boy. I mean, he likes the pool, and that's so fun.
Good. Yeah.
And so that's exciting. So we're raising dogs now.
Yeah.
Apparently we are raising it, that we did not choose.
Right.
That we did not pick, that the daughter decided, hey,
Here you go.
we are going to have puppies, and I'm going to move to Mississippi and leave them with you, which is fabulous.
Yeah.
No, but it's exciting. I'm looking forward to changing some things within my own self-image.
Yeah.
I think I've really identified as, I'm a mom. And I'm like, not that I'm a mom first, but I mean, that's a huge part of your, when you're a mom, that's who you are. You're so-and-so's
that's a big part of your identity,
right?
yeah.
And so now I get to be me for the first time. Like, I get to be Heather for the first time. I get to choose what that is and what that looks like. And that's kind of exciting.
Yeah, that's fun.
And I get to change some things up. You know, I have complete control over what I do with my schedule.
Yeah.
Whereas before I was kind of navigating, you know, I don't want to miss anything. So I was navigating, you know, when events were that my kids were in so that I can make sure that I didn't miss any of that.
Yeah.
Well, now, I mean, I'll go to parents' weekend, but, you know, I don't have to go to all the football games or, you know, I don't have to organize my life.
You don't have a cheer schedule anymore that you've got to, that you're a sort of a servant to anymore. Yeah.
No, kind of excited about that. So I have freedom to decide who I want to be. So that's probably my next step. What I'm looking forward to is determining who do I want to be? Like, how do I want to embrace this change? How do I want to move forward confidently and securely into whatever's next? As far as, you know, my work goes and just working with clients, I don't jump too far ahead.
Yeah.
I get really excited about what's coming up today. So I already know like who's on my schedule later today, excited to talk to them. I usually look at my schedule in the morning and I just look at everybody on my schedule and I decide, okay, what's something I'm looking forward to with this person, this person, this person. So I get excited to talk to them instead of looking at my schedule going, wow, it's a lot of people. I don't do that. You know,
I can sometimes be guilty of that, of looking at all of that. Yeah.
Like, that's a lot. What am I thinking? You know, because I don't think I get done until, you know, 7 or 8 at night any day this week. And I did that to myself.
Right.
So I can't be mad at me. Like, I mean, I can, but that would be kind of silly.
That's not productive.
Yeah. So I think my goal is just to look forward to everything that as it comes and to embrace everything as it comes and not stress myself out by looking too far ahead. Yeah. And I don't know that that's the strategy everyone uses, but for me, I want to enjoy every day.
Yeah.
And that helps me.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Hey, thanks for letting me come on the show today.
Oh,
it's been a blast. I love the opportunity to get to pick your brain because there's so many things that I think when people hear about mental management, they think that it only applies to competition of some kind, but so many of these tools work across the board for any industry that you're in that, you know, I've applied them to pastoring, to business leadership, and the parenting and a lot of the conferences and things that I get to speak at. So it's always great for me to have the opportunity to just kind of sit down with you and pick your brain. So thanks for letting me come on. It's been fun.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for listening and watching. Like this if you do. Share it with a friend. If you're not a Patreon member, we would love to have you join our Patreon membership. Lucas and I are going to tackle some techniques on how you can handle change for our Patreon members.